This is the Real Change Wilmington podcast, episode 10, inside the Wilmington Police Department with our guest today, Chief Ron Fithen.
We're working with the judges. We're working with the Homeless Coalition. We're working with the different, behavioral health outlets that are out there to come up with a game plan. How, what are we going to do? And without the resources are few and far between. So that is a huge hurdle that we're trying to get over now, and it's going to take some time.
What's going on, everybody? This is your host of the Real Change Wilmington podcast, Dustin Pierce.
And I'm Emily Spencer, the co-host.
Yeah. So we have a fun episode for you today. Yes, Queen. Should we call you Queen? Is that what you said that for? Emily, the Queen.
That's right. Step over Prince Charles. I'm coming across the pond.
Oh my gosh.
Please take that out. They're going to come after me.
So we got to interview Chief Ron Fithen today with the police department. It's a pretty cool interview. I'm actually really surprised at the number of people who are coming on our podcast. I mean, we put up a website, make a logo, and people think we're legitimate, I guess. So Emily just called him last week and asked him to be on the podcast, and he said yeah. So
yeah, he was real gung-ho about it.
Yeah, it was fun. I never have met him before, but all my interactions with the police department here have been pretty good. They've been professional and kind, understanding. So yeah, I'm excited to share with everybody just who Ron Fithen is and hopefully answer some questions that you have about what's going on with homelessness, crime statistics. What else did we talk about? Mental health.
Community involvement.
Yeah, those are some big ones. What was a highlight for you, Emily?
That Chief Fithen really wants to involve the police with the community. Like, he wants the police to go into the schools and talk to the kids about not to be afraid of police officers, and how to interact with them if you are pulled over or if you need assistance. Because at the end of the day, police officers shouldn't be feared. They're there to help us. Yeah,
he was really big about educating the community, it seemed like. Something that stood out for me. I know you didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you anyways.
What, pray tell, Dustin, surprised you the most?
I really thought his experience with the K9 dog was interesting. Mm-hmm. It's not something that I think a lot about, but it's definitely a big part of his career and something that is a really cool tool, in his words, a tool for the community. So I think that was pretty interesting. And I'm hoping that we get another K9 dog here soon. Mm-hmm. So with that, Emily, we always like to discuss the hot goss, each other's lives. Hot goss is a new segment of the show.
Hot goss. I shared the Stoops podcast with my friend group, and they were all talking about hot goss last night, and I was like, he just don't stop with it.
It needs to have like a little sound effect when we talk about the hot goss. And now for the next segment of the show, the hot goss.
I told them you said that in that interview with the intern, and I said, and then she didn't accept the position, and I sent the gif of the teacher from The Incredibles. Coincidence? I think not.
Yeah, we tried to get an intern, and Emily thinks I scared her away with the hot goss topic, but I don't know. Anyways.
That's the hot goss.
That's the hot goss. But anyways, you had an eventful weekend with your family. You did some more bowling, and you made some cool cakes.
My friends. So last weekend I went bowling with my family for my cousin's 15th birthday. And then this week, my friend Laura, her son, Luke, he turns 5. So they asked me to make his birthday cake and cupcakes, and then I made cookies and stuff. And those kids had a lot of fun bowling and hanging out at the alley.
Yeah, Emily's a really good cook. She brings in food for me sometimes to the office, and she brought in cookies yesterday. And I'm like, oh, dang, it's like 5 cookies here. I ate them in like 5 minutes, so they're pretty good. What was you said you made him a Power Ranger cake. What was the Ranger color?
It was red and gold, so it wasn't like...
Red Ranger, nice.
Yeah, I'm not like... I made one real fancy cake one time, and it was the Make Shark cake. So this was just themed, so it was just red icing with like a gold border around it. And then I wrote happy birthday on it.
Nice. Did they dress up as Power Rangers?
Luke did. He dressed up like the Gold Ranger.
Okay.
And then he didn't want to wear his shoulder things because he said they hurt.
Oh, poor kid. So since you're not going to ask, the hot gossip of my life.
Tell us about your ladies.
All about you being queen over there.
That's right.
No, my ladies are doing good. The chickens are doing fine. But I wanted to discuss something that is the best thing I've ever heard of. And it is the Amazon Try Before You Buy.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored, but hey, they are here in town. If they want to sponsor the podcast, definitely throw us some
There's
change.
There's a line, yeah.
Yeah. But so I was at the mall last weekend and trying on some pants. I hate doing this. I hate like going to the mall and you get like 50 pants out and try them all on. You're giving me a face right now.
50
I gotta
pants.
have the right fit of pant. You know, it's a commitment over.
Just imagine you have this big stack of pants. I had like one fitting room for my 50 pants.
It's a commitment when you get pants, and they're expensive as heck too. So you got to get the right color, the right size, and anyways. So I went on Amazon. I was at the mall and I saw that you could try before you buy it. I'm like, that's pretty cool. So I ordered a few different sizes and got some, and I'm wearing my new pants right now. And I've been loving them. They have tons of room in the seat. Just been strutting around our office with these new pants. So if you're out there and you're like me and shopping is the most horrible thing in the world, you can do Amazon, try before you buy. You don't pay for anything for 7 days and you can send it back. And it's great. Love it.
You're obviously participating in Ohio Fashion Week.
Am I? Yeah.
Well, it's Fashion Week time right now, isn't it?
Oh, how good. How good convenience-wise. So now that the hot goss is done, let's get into today's episode with Ron Fithen and hear what he has to say. All right, Ron Fithen, thanks for being on the podcast today and making the time to be here.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. So what we're going to do is just start out by getting to know who you are.
Sure.
So kind of tell us the story of how you got to Wilmington.
Well, I'll go back to, like I was saying earlier, I got into law enforcement because of my grandfather. My grandfather was a deputy sheriff for the Brown County Sheriff's Office for over 40 years. He actually was an auxiliary part-timer getting ready to transport some prisoners for Brown County, putting on a uniform when he had a massive heart attack. So he was like a little over 70 years old, still working part-time. Just being a kid and walking into his house, seeing him get ready for work, the way the uniform was pressed and the way he presented himself. It was just an air of professionalism about how he handled himself, how he cared for his community. Mm-hmm. And that really got me into looking into law enforcement. Didn't get into law enforcement until I was 24 years old. You know, once I graduated from high school from Milford, I became an EMT, emergency medical technician. I did work in that capacity for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years for Milford Miami Township Fire Department and EMS. At that point, I started testing for different police agencies, things like that. Right around 1991, started testing for Wilmington. Got offered a position in Wilmington. Started 1992, April 1992 is when I was sworn in as a police officer here in Wilmington.
What day? You remember the day?
April 16th, I know that.
Okay.
But I remember being sworn in there. It was a previous, he's a councilman now, but at the time it was Mayor Nick Eveland.
Okay.
Chief Michael Hatton was the chief of police at that time.
And then you've worked your way up since then?
Yep. I was, April 92. And then 94, we started, we were getting some calls about alarm drops and things like that. And there was a company that was here in town called Rentrack at the time. And they were out at the businesses off of Progress Way. And the vice president of the company, he was from California. And he was like, when we have alarm drops in California, they just send the dogs in, the canines. And
what does alarm drop mean?
But it's basically what an alarm drop is. Like you have alarms on buildings.
Like a security alarm?
Yeah, it was a false alarm they were getting at the time, security alarms. And they were getting quite a few at their business. And our officers showed up at the time. And once again, he says in California, when officers show up to check a building on an alarm drop, it's much quicker to send a dog in. Well, at that time, we had not, in the history of Wilmington, have never had a police canine. And I started doing some research on it, and his company did reach out and say, how much does a canine cost? We'd like to donate the money towards the purchase of one.
Okay.
So I was lucky enough to present that to the chief and to the city council at that point in time. And then October of 1994 is when I was able to be partnered with my police canine. His name was Ren, named after the company Rentrack. So
okay.
It was REN. So, I didn't want to stick with, the Ren 1010 type of thing. His born name was Ringo, and I didn't like Ringo because that's kind of generic, So I figured if there was a company out there, such as Rentrack, that donated the money for his purchase, then we would go ahead and just name him after Rentrack. So
how much are canine dogs?
Back then, I would tell you $4,500 at that time. Nowadays, sure. Quite expensive, anywhere from $10,500 to about $20,000, depending upon. That includes the training.
Yeah. So how old are they when you get them?
It varies. They could be anywhere from youngest could be 18 months up to 2 to 3 years old. Ren was 2 when I got him, and the good thing about Ren, he was we purchased him from a a trainer over in Holland, over in Europe.
Oh, wow.
And the good thing, he was trained in all the obedience. He was trained in tracking. He was also trained in what's called the sporting dog, they call it Schutzhund over there, which is it's a trial type of sport that the dogs do over in Holland. The only thing he didn't have on him at the time when I got him was the area searches and article searches and the narcotics.
Mm-hmm.
It only took about 2 weeks to imprint him to all the different types of drugs, and we were able to get him state certified in the narcotics.
Wow.
So he was a very, very useful tool for us.
Yeah.
And I worked with him to about 2000. I retired him about 2003. He started having some health issues in 2003.
It's a long run.
It is for a dog. Like I said, he was about almost 12 years old, 11, 12 years old when I retired him. Usually about 10, 11 is when you want to look at retiring a dog. I got 8 to 9 years out of him, which is really good for law enforcement. And the unfortunate part is, I had to make a hard decision on Christmas Eve of 2005. His health was failing, and we had to make the decision to put him down because he was in some serious pain. We believe he had mass on his spine.
Mm. So did the dog come home with you every day? Was it
every day?
24
hours.
Nice.
I spent more time with that dog than I did my family. There's
at home and that work.
And you have to be dedicated to be a canine officer too. It's one of those things where you have to be dedicated to the training. I trained once a week or once every other week with a training group out of Dayton. We'd always go up to there were 4 or 5 Dayton canine officers along with the Veterans Affairs dog, and we just went around to different regions here and trained. We do 8 to 10 hour training days. So you have to stay on top of training.
Yeah. What does a dog do for a police department? Is it like help save money, help save lives, and all that? All the above?
It really doesn't save money because it's an investment is what it is, because it is a tool that we use in law enforcement. Now, like I said, nowadays between $10,500 to about almost $20,000 for a dog. But your return on investment.
Yeah, what is the benefit of it? Yeah,
the benefit of it's a law enforcement tool. Mm-hmm. First of all, there's all kinds of different dogs that can be trained in different types of law enforcement situations. There's what's called a dual purpose dog, and that's what Ren was. What we mean by dual purpose is narcotics being one, mm-hmm. and then the others is the building searches, the tracking, the article searches, the building searches, and apprehension. So that's what a dual purpose dog is. Single purpose is bombs and explosives or drugs and narcotics. So they have those dogs. Also, cadaver dogs are out there.
What's a cadaver dog?
Cadaver dog looks for human remains, dead bodies, things like that. It's kind of, those are specialized. Ren, because he was a dual purpose dog, we didn't even go towards that area because there's a lot of training involved in that, and because he was imprinted on narcotics, we really didn't want to mess with that part of his scent control.
Okay.
So what kind of dog was he?
He was a Belgian Malinois.
So do you have a new dog now then?
Currently, we do not. Okay. We are looking at obtaining a new one. What I'm doing is I know our department, we've had recruitment and retention issues. We are actually trying to get our department back up to full scale as far as having enough personnel to do it. Because it is a specialized unit, I have to wait till I get to full staffing to be able to apply for a grant to get the dog. I do look at I'm hoping by July of this year, obtaining a grant, and we'll have interviews. We'll have people be putting in their resumes, curriculum vitae from the department to give to us, so we can actually start doing the interviews to determine who our next canine officer is going to be.
You mentioned staffing. Is it an issue with funding, like tax dollar, or is it just personnel applying?
That's what it is.
Right. Okay.
Over the past 2 or 3 years, and it's just not us. It's all over the United States. We are having recruitment and retention issues. Of course, 2, 3 years ago, all the civil unrest they had over the George Floyd incident. And I will tell you, as a law enforcement officer, when I see stuff like that, one bad officer has a bearing on every officer across the United States. And, even the young people see that and they're like, why do I want to be a police officer in this type of society when we're being spit on, we're being bottles thrown at us and things like that. But, this is a rewarding career. And when we go out and recruit at different police academies, and I want to start going to the colleges and high schools, we tell them that it can be rewarding. There are certain times when, the career can get to some officers, when it gets to that point, it may be time to hang up the gun belt and, walk away from it. But I've been in it, I'll be starting my 31st year in April of this year, next month. And every day is different. It has its ups and downs. You have to be the right type of person. You got to have a lot of patience in this career. But it is a recruitment and retention issue, because the problem being with the retention is with us being a kind of a rural agency, you got to look at what's around us. We have Ketterings, we have the Oakwoods, we have the Beaver Creeks. And when they're starting their officers out at $35, $40 an hour, unfortunately, we can't match that with the type of community that we are. We'd love to do it, but we have officers that come on and then they jump ship. So it's a matter of trying to retain them. And to retain them, it comes down to funding, and it comes down to leadership as well.
And that's some kind of appeal of like a small town, or being a small town police officer as opposed to being a larger town.
Yes.
Different kind of person, I guess, would want a different kind of career path, I suppose.
Yeah. And the good thing about us is, once again, we have ways for our officers, and we're big on training. So I will tell you that we have a pretty large budget for when it comes to a training budget. So all of our officers get great training throughout the year. And there's free training out there, but there's also, when we want people to get leadership, like sergeants or what we call our senior officers, we'll send them to supervisor classes, leadership classes. We also have specialized classes like instructors. I have probably half a dozen instructors on our department that are certified through OPATA, which is the governing agency for the state of Ohio for basic peace officers. Okay. OPATA is the Ohio Peace Officer Training Association's Council, OPOTC. To be an instructor in the state of Ohio for a basic peace officer academy, you have to have that certificate. And I do send all my instructors to that. So, but once again, we're trying to recruit the best we can. It's just not us. I'm hearing from other agencies out there that we're having problems. And it's not only us and the police world, we're having troubles getting dispatchers as well. And that, the police department runs our dispatch center as well. And we're supposed to have 8. We currently have 5. So it's kind of tough on the ladies that are up there in our dispatch center, because they have sacrificed so much time. It's kind of hard to give them vacations or personal days and things like that. But I have a very, very dedicated staff up in dispatch, and they understand that recruitment is tough as well. And that's the thing. Being a dispatcher, you only have to be 18. To be a police officer, you have to be 21. So we can hire right out of high school for dispatchers. Okay. So we are recruiting heavily for our dispatchers right now.
So speaking of that, what does the police department look like inside? What are the different roles, I guess?
Well, the way our structure is, we have a chief of police. Under that chief of police, the way it's structured, I have an administrative sergeant that's underneath me. And then what he does, a lot of the paperwork that I don't have time for, things like that, getting people scheduled for classes. He oversees the patrol division as well. And then underneath that, I have 4 sergeants. We have 4 shifts. We have 2 day shifts, 2 night shifts. Our officers work 12-hour shifts. So they work 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So they work 2 12s, and they'll be off for 2 days after that. So 2 12s, they'll be off for 2 days, and then they'll come back and they'll work 3 days. One of those 3 days is an 8-hour day. So they'll work 32 hours one week and they'll work 48 hours the next. So they still get their 80 hours in during that pay period.
Is it like a fire department where they sleep there, or
no?
Because it's 24/7, so it's different.
Yeah,
okay, sorry.
Fire departments, they do have the 24/48, but our officers, no, we don't sleep or anything like that. We go for calls for service when we're dispatched to them. We are out there being proactive. We go out there, and our officers, just like any other agency, we go out there and run traffic, respond to crashes, respond to calls for service, whatever it may be. We have, like I said, we have 4 sergeants, 1 for each shift that we have. And then currently we're still trying to get up to staff. I am short currently 4 officers right now. So we're trying, at our full staff levels, we try to have 3 patrol officers with 1 sergeant per shift. So it'll be 4 officers per shift. Okay. Is what we have. So like I said, we are currently short 4, trying to get back up to staff.
Gotcha. And then can you kind of tell us the difference between the police, the sheriff's office, and the highway patrol? Because they're all in Wilmington, is that correct?
That's correct.
And where's the police department located?
Police department is located right here in the middle of town at 69 North South Street.
Okay.
It's a municipality. So we basically under Ohio Revised Code, we still fall under the Ohio Revised Code for municipalities. The Sheriff's Department would have coverage anywhere in the county, even here in the city. But we handle all the calls here in the county. I'm not county, I'm the city. If for some reason that we are just tied up or, with calls and can't respond, a lot of times we have mutual aid requests where we'll contact the county and say, hey, all our officers are tied up. We have a situation. Can you have an officer respond until we can get one cleared? With that mutual aid request, we kind of help each other out. And they do the same thing with us. If they're tied up and they want us to assist them on a call, we will do that as well. The State Patrol, which is located on Aronback Avenue, they are primarily dedicated to traffic enforcement, traffic crashes, things like that. That's all they do. They don't respond to calls for service at private residence. They don't take any calls on private property. It's basically streets, highways, roadways in the state of Ohio. So they have jurisdiction anywhere in the state of Ohio.
Our local office has jurisdiction anywhere in Ohio?
State Patrol does, yes.
State Patrol?
Yes.
But our State Patrol is mostly for Wilmington or for the county? Or?
They cover 3 counties.
Oh, okay.
They cover Fayette County, Highland County, and Clinton County.
And they're all located in Wilmington?
Yes.
Here. Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
And Clinton County State Patrol Post is the regional. It's called District 8. They have the region, which would include the Brown County, the Adams County, some of the Cincinnati area as well. So it's a regional post. But Brown County also, they down there, they cover Brown County, Adams County, and a little bit of Claremont County as well. But it's for OSP, and they're having the same issue for recruitment and retention as well. When you have to cover 3 counties and you got 2 or 3 troopers working on a shift,
yeah,
you got one trooper per county. That's kind of tough for them.
Yeah, I can imagine. So your career also included some crisis hostage negotiating?
Yep, that is a specialized unit. Basically, it's a 40-hour course, basic hostage negotiation. It's a 40-hour course. Then there's advanced hostage negotiation, another 40-hour course. And then I've had other trainings throughout that. It was called hostage negotiation. Now we look at it today, crisis negotiation. Because there are people in crisis, suicidal people that may barricade themselves in a house and say that they want to die, things like that. So we don't only talk about people taking hostages. It's about people that are in crisis, might have behavioral health issues, mental health issues. So there's specialized training there on how to deal with those people, talking to them, being empathetic to their situation, and being able to bring everybody out safely, them, law enforcement, family, whoever it may be. So we've done that. It's something that is very limited when we do it, because we haven't done it a lot here in Wilmington, but I've done it. I could probably count on 1 or 2 hands in my 30-year career of how many times I've actually been called in to negotiate with somebody.
Okay. And is that something that other people on the department have as well, or is that?
I'm sending a couple people this year to do that, yes.
Okay.
Because when I first got hired on, there was a couple people that were negotiators. They have since retired. I got trained in that. And now, because I'm the chief, I kind of pull myself back a little bit, because if we have to set up a command post or something like that, I have to worry about my other officers and not be negotiating. So until I can get those other people trained, I am the only negotiator on the department. Now, with that being said, we do have what's called a crisis intervention officers. All of our officers that we employ in our department, we bring in instructors from the mental health, Warren County Mental Health, and they train. It is a 4 or 5 day training that they teach officers how to talk to people in crisis as well. So in case our officers respond and are able to get them the assistance that they need.
So you said they train with the mental health people. Does that mean like they're going to engage with people who are like schizophrenic or having an episode, I suppose?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we deal with people that just on the different spectrums of behavioral health. They may have the schizophrenia, they may be bipolar, they may just be having a bad day and have depression, something like that. So this training the mental health specialists give us, it's a plus for the community as well. So our officers know how to speak to those people. They don't, if an officer doesn't know how to talk to them the right way, it could escalate the situation. We're trying to de-escalate, and that's what this training is, to de-escalate crisis situations.
Yeah, and I've heard people say that, or it seems like mental health and addiction is an issue in the community. So it's good that officers are having training to address those situations and de-escalate them.
Correct.
Any other part of so we're reading the article in the paper here, it says you were a part of a special response team?
Yeah, I was put on the SRT team. You call SWAT team, special response team, same thing. I was put on there in...
SWAT team sounds cooler.
Yeah, special SWAT team always sounds cooler, right? So, but in the same vein, special response team, SWAT, it's all defined the same because we're trained for situations like barricaded situations, high risk warrants, drug warrants. Anytime we have a situation where somebody may barricade themselves, we call them out. I'm trying to think. It was about 95. Right after I got the K-9, I was offered a position to be put on the team. I tested for the team. I became sergeant in 1999. Once I became sergeant, I was handed the commander of the SWAT team at that point. Worked in that capacity for about 2 or 3 years, and then I kind of turned it over to some of the younger guys at that point.
What is the SWAT team made up of? Just officers?
Yeah, what we do is it's a selection process. They have to go out to the firing range. We want to make sure that they can shoot, of course, and we have to have they shoot at a higher percentage than you would to be certified as a police officer in the state of Ohio. So we make sure that they reach that percentage of what they have to qualify at with their firearms. They have to do a physical agility test to make sure they're physically capable of doing it. And they also have to go through an oral interview process with other members of the special response team. After they've gone through that oral interview process, then the special response team will vote on who they want to bring in and be part of that team.
Okay. So just regular officers can also be SWAT team as well?
They can, but after that point, once they're selected, we send them to special response team or SWAT team operator training because they have to be certified as a SWAT operator. So that's specialized training. It's usually 1 to 2 weeks worth of training that is endorsed by the Ohio Tactical Officers Association, also the National Tactical Officers Association that specializes in SWAT training because we don't want to put anybody in a team that hasn't had that training. They have to know the ins and outs of what a SWAT operator is.
Yeah. I just meant like there's not like a special group of people that are sitting around their SWAT. They're also police officers.
Police officers, yeah. Now, there are larger municipalities like Cincinnati, Cleveland. You look at New York. They have their own full-time SWAT. That's all they do. Sure. That's all they do. But we, our SWAT guys are just everyday police officers, law enforcement officers. And if they're working the road and we have to get a SWAT call out, then what they have to do, they'll respond to what we call our safety center. They'll get suited up and we'll respond to the scene. But that's how we work our special operations SWAT team here in the city.
Nice. What is your proudest moment in law enforcement? Or what is one of your proudest moments? You have a long career, so.
I would say my proudest moment is, it's hard because there's two of them. One was being named the K-9 officer. That was probably the most rewarding because I look back at the years that I worked with my partner, Ran, and that it was just the most rewarding, seeing how hard that dog worked for me and the community. And just the feedback that I received from the community, feedback I received from other agencies about how wonderful that dog was as a tool. But I've worked my entire career to advance. I became sergeant. My goal was set, and I went on to obtain my bachelor's degree. I went on to obtain my master's degree, and I was like, I want to lead an agency. And I was finally given that opportunity in July of last year when I was promoted to chief. And I would say that's been my highlight of my career is obtaining chief.
What about you do you think makes a good leader?
I think as a leader, you have to believe in the guys that you work, the guys and gals that you work around. You have to have faith that they're going to be doing their jobs. To me, my grandpa has always said, and I've heard, if you've have gone to any leadership classes, you've heard this before. My grandfather always said, you need to lead by example. People look at you as a role model. And if you can portray yourself as that leader, as that role model, and give people what they want, which is high morale, give them rewards when they're needed, they will follow you. And I just think that those traits is if I lead by example and work hard, then the people around me, I think we become a better agency altogether.
So we're going to transition into some issues in town, not specific ones, just general issues. And we looked at some crime stats online. I'm not sure how accurate they were, but they covered things like domestic abuse, rape, traffic issues,
petty crime,
drugs, and so forth. What do you see as like the trends currently? Right? That's the most highest percentage of crimes.
I will tell you our highest percentage of crimes currently, petty theft is one of them, and trespassing, criminal trespassing. Just over, the past 12 to 18 months, our criminal trespassing, if I were to go into my statistical reports that I have on my computer at work, if I pull that up, it will show you we've made more arrests for trespassing this year than we have in the past 20 years. That has a lot to do with our homeless issues as well. And we understand, we're trying to work with different agencies that are out there. There's not a lot of resources in our county, let alone the city. I know there's a homeless coalition.
Yeah.
That's trying to come together. We all need to work together, and that's the only way we're going to be able to help or combat this. A lot of these issues are addiction issues. A lot of them also are behavioral health issues as well. And when there's not resources available, what are we going to do? And that's the question we are asking ourselves, because a lot of these people with behavioral health issues, they don't belong in jail. There's people that we go out there that may be homeless, and we try to get the assistance. The homeless shelter may not accept them because of their behavioral health issues. Maybe they do have addiction issues. They may be impaired because of their addiction issues. And the problem is, do they really belong in jail? We don't have a behavioral health facility in our county. We actually would have to take them to the emergency room to be evaluated.
Okay.
We would call in outside resources like Butler Behavioral Health that would come in and evaluate them to see if they need to be put on an emergency holder for admission for mental health or behavioral health issue.
Like Butler County?
Yeah, it's Butler Behavioral. So they cover a 3-county radius.
Okay.
We do have people who come in and ride with us from some of those agencies as well. They've been a great resource. But once again, when you don't have a facility here to house the people, and beds are few and far between for when we have to do an emergency admission for somebody that needs to go to a behavioral facility. We have Summit Behavior, which is down in Cincinnati, and the problem is we have people that go to the jail. They start causing issues over the jail because of behavioral issues. It's a 4 to 6 week time frame before a judge can even get them a bed down at Butler Behavioral. So we don't want to fill up the jail space for people that really, if we need felony crimes, we need to put them in there.
Sure.
So, but once again, we're working with the judges. We're working with the homeless coalition. We're working with the different, behavioral health outlets that are out there to come up with a game plan. How, what are we going to do? And without the resources are few and far between. So that is a huge hurdle that we're trying to get over now, and it's going to take some time.
You mentioned Summit Health in Cincinnati. Is that what you said it's called?
Yeah, Summit is an actual. It is a detention center, but it is geared towards the ones that have major behavioral health issues or mental health issues.
Okay.
Some of those that are down there have committed crimes. So those are the ones that actually have been convicted in court that have behavioral health issues that maybe they shouldn't be held at our local detention center, such as the Sheriff's Department. They go down to Summit Behavioral Health for a long-term detention.
And I guess, is there officers there as well? It's for safety, I
yes,
suppose?
Yeah, it is. It's there's regular corrections officers down in that area.
Okay. Is there one of those in Columbus also?
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 up in Columbus.
I think I've heard of that before. I think that they converted like a hotel or something into a building like that, maybe, if it's the same thing.
Yeah, there used to be one just off of 71, just up above off of Broad Street.
Yeah, that's what I think I was thinking of. Okay. So when people are breaking into houses and committing these petty crimes, what's the reasons that they're doing that?
The petty crimes that we're getting, what we're seeing is they're doing it and a lot of times we see it because of the addiction issues. When they're stealing property, they're taking the property and they're trading it for their drug of choice. That's a lot of things that we're seeing.
What's the most stolen thing?
I will tell you, Walmart. They go out to Walmart and they shoplift like crazy out of Walmart. And we're called out there almost daily for shoplifters. And it's not, it's not like it's, cell phones game. If we have people stealing clothing, we have people stealing groceries, things like that. So, but when we see somebody, the biggest issue we have with the homeless is there may be an abandoned house. And what they're doing is they're actually getting in, either, they'll open a window, they'll force a door open, and they'll go in, to get out of the cold, or maybe it's just to get out of the element or something like that. We understand that people, they don't want to be cold. We understand they want to get out of the elements. We do. once again, it comes down to resources. We do have a homeless shelter. Homeless shelter has policies in place of who they can and cannot accept. Now, there are sleeping rooms available that are, we have the Hope House, which is by the railroad tracks, just about a block away from United Dairy Farmers here in town, that accepts females. Their rules are, I think you have to be there by 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, and you have to leave by 6 or 7 in the morning. It's not like a long, you can't stay over so many days. And they have a men's shelter house as well. Same rules apply. They have to be in by 9 o'clock, have to leave by 6 or 7 in the morning. And it's not long-term housing. The good thing about our homeless shelter, with the policies they have in place there, these are people that are really wanting help. They're wanting to get out of the addiction. They're wanting to get out of homelessness. So they go to the homeless shelter, and as long as they're going out, trying to obtain jobs, trying to help themselves, the homeless shelter will allow them to stay there. And there are some very good success stories that come out of the Clinton County Homeless Shelter of people that have reached out for help and actually have gotten jobs. And it's amazing to see what they do there at the homeless shelter.
We actually just visited them recently, and they were on our podcast too. I was surprised too. It's not just a house where people go to sleep. It's like there's people that are on staff. They're intentional with these people. Everyone. It's like a kind of like a college room atmosphere, a college dorm atmosphere, where like everyone has like an open room and up at a certain time finding a job. It's very intentional, and yeah, it seems like a great.
Yeah, that is a great resource for us. Like I said, the success stories are awesome that we see come out of there.
So you said that a lot of it is people breaking into these abandoned houses, which there's probably a lot of in Wilmington, I assume.
Yeah, and we are working with the zoning and boarding enforcement officer, Ann Vance here for the city of Wilmington. She may get complaints from residents of seeing people go in and out of some of these homes. So she'll call us. Our officers will go out there, do a walkthrough of the building if it's safe enough for us to go through. Some of these abandoned houses that are out there, some of them aren't safe to go into. We don't want to send our officers upstairs if the floors are given away. It's kind of a safety issue for us. But we will actually go in there, visually inspect it, make sure nobody's staying in there. If they are staying in there, we are charging them a criminal trespass. Do they go to jail the first time? No, because it's a misdemeanor of the 4th degree, which is the lowest misdemeanor. Other than minor misdemeanors is a citation. But we'll give them a court date to appear in court, because a lot of times the judge will be able to offer resources that maybe we cannot as a law enforcement agency, just to try to get them. We will also explain to them, hey, the homeless shelter's out there. There's the women's shelter. There's the men's shelter that you can go to. We talk about Our Father's Kitchen. If they're hungry, we can send them out to Lee at Our Father's Kitchen, and he can feed them if need be. But we want to make sure that we're trying to give them the resources. But then again, if they're repeat offenders and they're not accepting our resources, our hands are kind of tied at that point in time. I know there's a lot of citizens out there that get upset with the law enforcement agency because they don't believe we're doing enough, but they have to understand our hands are tied because the way the laws are written. A criminal trespass is a misdemeanor to 4th degree. The most you can be sentenced is like up to 30 days for that. So if the judge sentences them for 30 days, they're going to be back on the street after that 30-day period. And we try to let our citizens know we don't write the laws. The General Assembly of the state of Ohio does that. All we do is enforce them, and then it's up to the judicial system to decide what they want to do with them.
I see. What about people who are in the houses? So my house. How many people get broken into who live at the house? Is that a high percentage, or is that? It's
not high at all. I mean, we've had houses broken into when people are present, and that's a felony level at that point. It becomes aggravated burglary is what it's called.
Gotcha.
And if people are present and people break in to steal an item, it goes from theft now to an aggravated burglary because people are present in the home when that theft offense was going to occur.
Okay.
And that's felony level stuff. And that's we will definitely arrest somebody at that point in time.
Gotcha. Speaking of general safety, what's your opinion on people? Should they feel safe in Wilmington? How?
Yeah, to me, it's safe. Like I said, there's just some misconception out there that our crime rates are very high. I will tell you, if you look at the FBI crime statistics that are there, if you look in the past 3 to 4 years, you will see a curve where it shows homicides are high. Well, I'm going to tell you, we had 2 homicides over the past 3 years. So if you see that, and you look at Wilmington over the past 10, 15 years, it's kind of flat leveled. And then all of a sudden, over the past 3 years, see the homicides. Well, we've had 2 homicides over the past, 2 or 3 years. and it was leveled off for a while. So when they see the homicides, oh my God, the crime rates are high on our homicides. But once again, when you look at our petty thefts, when you look at our trespasses, those are going to be high because that's what our officers are out there enforcing and making the arrest for. Okay. So, and if you look at, rapes and things like that, those are low on our spectrum because, we have detectives that are highly trained in investigating sexual assaults and rapes. There are times when we may get a victim that doesn't want to do anything about it. We can't force that victim to file charges on somebody. We can delve into it. Hey, we're here to help you. Here's the resources. If you were wronged and you're a victim of crime, we're going to put this person behind jail, but we need your help to do this.
Right. That's probably tough.
It is tough. And it's tough. And the toughest thing is child sexual assault victims as well.
Yikes! Yeah.
That is, and I would tell you, in my 31-year career, the worst thing is seeing a child hurt mentally, physically. Yeah. Any law enforcement officer out there that says it doesn't bother them is lying to you.
Do you have children?
I do have children, grown children. I've got 3 grandchildren as well. But it's I remember my first sexual assault victim, little 8-year-old girl. And to interview her, it just broke my heart.
Yeah.
Broke my heart. And
that's what stays with a person their whole life.
Yeah.
And it's just tragic.
Yeah. Because that little girl, emotionally, she's got scars forever.
Yeah.
I kind of feel bad because I have a couple detectives. One of our detectives, that's all he did for years was sexual assault victims. We have to closely monitor those officers because, we have to look for signs of maybe depression or signs that they may be burnout. It might be time to maybe pull them out of that and get them on something else, assign them something other than sexual assault. So that becomes an issue in law enforcement as well. We have to be able to make sure that our guys are healthy mentally in the capacity that they do, especially investigations.
Yeah. Definitely in this day and age, and all the eyes are on police officers. You can't have police officers who are, have too much pressure and doing things that are putting a bad light on everybody, all other cops. Are there areas in the city that are more prone to getting break-ins or petty theft?
Not really. When we look at all the thefts that we have, most of them are because there are still people out there that won't lock their cars. For some reason, we'll get calls. Hey, my car's been rummaged through. We have stuff that's missing from the cars. Okay, let's do some crime prevention here. And the biggest thing, keep things out of view. Lock your cars up. If you have stuff around your house, close your blinds at nighttime. Make sure that nothing is in plain view. Because what it is, when that happens, it's a crime of opportunity. And, if we have somebody that wants to steal something and they're the suspect in a theft, they're going to do it. Law enforcement presence is one thing. We can't be with somebody 24 hours a day. We can be proactive. But the thing is, once we officers aren't in the area and a suspect is given an opportunity, they're going to take that opportunity. So that's why we kind of preach and teach people that don't become a victim. There's ways to not become a victim. Surveillance cameras. That's one of the big things now that we're telling people. Hey, you got surveillance cameras. We can ID this person all day, every day. We have evidence. We will charge them if you want us to. You're the victim. But once again, I can't preach it enough. Lock your doors. Lock your cars. Take stuff out of your cars and keep things out of plain view. But primarily what we see is in the business districts downtown. That's where we see some of our thefts occur. We've had
with businesses or with residents in that area, or both?
Cars in that area,
cars,
business district. Because people leave, like I said, they'll run into the store real quick and leave their car unlocked. Mm-hmm. Somebody will go in and grab something. There's been a couple purses that have been taken because somebody's left it in there. They've run into the store. It was only going to be there 5-10 minutes to pick a prescription up, come back out, and all of a sudden they come back out and their purse is gone.
Yeah.
So I've had situations in the past where I don't know why they do this, but firearms have been stolen from vehicles.
Mm.
You don't ever leave a firearm in a vehicle, period. And once again, it comes down to why didn't you lock your vehicle? So there are just some things that people can do to not become a victim. And we, like I said, we preach crime prevention all the time.
So on that topic, what are some of the more annoying calls that you get, right? That you would rather not have these like petty calls that you can't really do anything about, I guess. Does that make sense? I'm sure you get some people just really using the police in a capacity they shouldn't really be using them in, I guess.
Most of the time, it is. You really can't say they're annoying, but something we can't really deal with. It's like child custody disputes.
Okay.
The only thing we can enforce when it comes to something like that would be a protection order or something like that. But when my husband didn't bring the children back, he was 15 minutes late.
Okay.
My wife said she wasn't going to give me the children this weekend. Okay. All we can do is document it. And then we tell them, you need to go to your attorney, go to probate court, file that contempt of court charge with your attorney in probate court, because it's not a criminal matter, it's a civil matter.
Gotcha.
But we get those, we're inundated with those as well.
Do people need to document them with you, or can they just go straight to the probate? They
have to document them with us because they're legal attorney, family attorneys. They will collect those reports and say, okay, we've had a dozen of these over the past 2 months. Mm-hmm. We think there's enough to file contempt of court. So once again, it's civil issues. We've had property disputes. They're putting a fence line up on my property. Okay, that's not our issue. If we tell them they need to go to the auditor's office, have somebody come out there and do a survey again. So it's just some of the civil disputes that we run into. It's like our hands are tied because it's nothing criminal going on there.
Yeah, that makes sense. So speaking of the homeless shelters, obviously there's a lot of people, I guess loiterers, whatever you want to call them, around Sugar Tree Ministries. What's your thoughts on that, or Sugar Tree Ministry issues in town, I guess?
Well, I hear from both sides.
Right.
Being the chief of police, we hear from residents, citizens saying that they are making the situation worse by allowing these people to come and hang around. We have to work together because that's the only way we're going to get rid of some of these problems. Lee is doing what he thinks is best for the people. He's not turning anybody away. If they're hungry, he's going to feed them. He's going to do things like that. He's going to give them clothing as need be. What the problem that we're seeing is, I know Lee doesn't have control of the people that are outside of his business, walking to and fro, doing drug deals in the open, not on his property, but close to it. Because we've had complaints from business owners off of North Lincoln over on Sugar Tree Street in that area, saying that they're seeing these homeless people that have the backpacks doing drug deals in the parking lots of their business. And once again, we speak with those business owners and we're like, you need to call us when this occurs, try to get some information for us, descriptions. If they got surveillance video, please send us surveillance video. And some of the business owners have provided us surveillance videos, and I've turned those over to some of our detectives that work on drug investigations. But Our Father's Kitchen is there for a reason, but we need to make sure that everybody in the community is doing their part as far as the law enforcement community. Once again, our hands are tied on some of this stuff. Lee's doing what, but you're always going to have the negative and positive that go with that. It comes down to resources. And we've had a couple of meetings with the Homeless Coalition, residents, law enforcement, Homeless Coalition, and there's been a lot of questions that the topics that are brought up. There's not enough resources here in the county, in the city. So I think until we get those resources available, this is going to continue to be an issue.
We talked with Lee, and he mentioned that they're doing things to respond to community concerns, like putting up more security cameras. Obviously, they don't like allow drugs to be done on site and things like that. And from what he said, he turns people in if that's an issue, or he would, I guess, if that ever happened. So, what do you how do we get ahead of this issue with the drugs? And I guess just for now, the drug issue, how would we solve that issue?
Well, the drug issue itself comes down to having the personnel to be able to combat that. I would tell you that there's been several drug investigations that have turned into more intel when it comes to drug dealing that's been going on. We do have drug task force agents that do work these things, but what we try to do as far as a law enforcement agency, we just don't want to go in and arrest one person that might be a user. We want to get who's supplying that person.
What does that look like in Wilmington? Like, is there like a system in place, like a drug?
It's not like a drug cartel.
Yeah.
So, because what we know is a lot of these drugs they're coming from Dayton, they're coming from Cincinnati, they're coming from Columbus. So what we have is we have the drug dealers that are selling the drugs to a certain individual who may live in Wilmington. That person comes into Wilmington, goes to a parking lot, goes to a street, goes to a home. And then what they do is they start selling out of that centralized location, whether it be the vehicle or be the home or whatever, to the actual drug users or the truly addicted. And it's usually those, what we call the little guys, that provide us the information to be able to go and do a larger scale investigation. And sometimes that leads to getting the DEA and FBI involved sometimes when it's a large scale operation like that. And we have done in the past, we've actually done large scale operations where we have gone up to Dayton, we've gone up down to Cincinnati and seized a lot of cash, a lot of drugs, a lot of vehicles. So it's just a matter, of being proactive, being able to stop when we see the illegal activity. And make arrests at that and do further investigations when it comes to drug investigations.
Other issues in town, something that's been in the paper a lot recently is what's her name? Casey Pitzer?
Casey Pitzer.
What's this? Can you tell us about that?
Well, I can tell you right now.
Tell the community just.
Yeah, that was it happened in 2013, and it was a investigation of a missing person that our agency investigated it. When the investigation was all said and done, the coroner was sent up to the Miami Valley Crime Lab. Her body was sent to the Miami Valley Crime Lab. We got the results back with the autopsy results. And at that point in time, due to their investigation, they basically said it was because it was an accidental death at that point in time. There's all kinds of theories out there. You hear people saying it was a murder, things like that. I do know the previous chief actually would have been 2021, 2022, sent the entire case file over to BCI, Bureau of Criminal Investigations, at the request of the family to look at it, review it, see if there's anything else that we needed to do. In July, August, September of last year, they sent a letter back. BCI sent a letter back saying, we agree with the previous results at that point in time. I know the family's not happy with the department. They're not happy with me, not happy with a lot of people within the city right now.
I think that we went to just a few council meetings. It's gotten heated, which I can understand if you feel like you don't have justice and I can understand where it's coming from. I guess I don't know if he's right or wrong. But I guess he wants some footage or something.
Well, there's
something he can actually.
I can't really speak on that because
sure.
I know there's a current thing going on in court. So until that's over, I can't speak about that at this point.
That's fine. Yeah, it's just something our community is dealing with, I guess. So, race has been a huge issue with police in the past couple of years. What's your thoughts on the issue of race and police?
We are actually trying, once again, recruitment. We're trying to recruit minorities as well. We do have 2 African-American officers on our department. We just hired a female officer. We haven't had a female officer in probably 3 or 4 years.
Okay. And
then right now we're recruiting another female officer at this point in time that's currently in our local police academy. So as far, and if you look at our statistics, our agency, 2 of our officers are African American. So, our department's primarily white. But look at the buildup of our community as well.
Yeah,
you look at our buildup as well. A majority of Wilmington is primarily white as well. Mm-hmm. But it comes down to training. It comes down to how our officers interact with the community. I do know, we will send our officers to the high schools. I know we've sent how to deal with the social studies classes, the health classes. There were some issues. Can you come teach our kids what to do if they have an interaction with a police officer during a traffic stop or something like that? So we do community engagement.
Yeah.
That's one of the big things that I'm trying to espouse in our department is we need to get out there and get with the community's involvement. We can only get better as well.
That's good because I feel like even as I'm someone who's white, like I didn't know how to interact with cops, growing up. I didn't know. So one time a cop pulled me over for a traffic issue and I just jumped out of the car. He might have got this gun. He's like, get back in the car.
Probably yelled at you, get back in the car.
I'm like, I don't know how these work. So it's good that you're engaging young people to know how to interact with cops safely for everybody,
Yeah, twice a year we're sending our officers out there to Wilmington High School and we spend about a week out there with them talking about different topics in law enforcement. One of them is what to do on a traffic stop. Mm-hmm. Another one is their Fourth Amendment rights. We talk about search and seizure and things like that because they need to be aware of what we can and cannot do. because a lot of officers get in trouble because of Fourth Amendment issues. So, but yeah, we get involved in the community, things like that. So
I'm sure that helps alleviate a lot of anxiety when people are pulled over. Like Dustin said, I grew up in Hillsborough, and the only interaction we ever had with a police officer in our schools was Deputy Stoop. He'd come out and do the DARE program in the 6th grade, and that was it. And I remember I didn't get my license till I was 19. The first time I ever got pulled over was on 73, and it was because I was speeding, and I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, and he was like, the cop was like, it's okay, like, you were speeding and you're gonna get a ticket, but you don't need to like have a full-blown panic attack here, lady. And I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah, but like I said, I think community engagement, when we do things like that, go to the schools. One thing that I'm looking at is actually, I know in the past we've had what's called the Police Explorer program, which is it's an offshoot of the Boy Scouts program, where we bring in 15 to 21-year-olds who are interested in law enforcement. We kind of do a 6-week program with them about what our job is and things like that, and they can come out and have good times with us. I'm looking at starting it's probably not going to be this year, probably next year, is it's called a Citizens Police Academy, and you guys have probably heard of that. There's a lot of agencies run it. It's a free course. It runs, I think it's an 8 or 9 month program where they meet once a week. Once a month for that 9-week period. It's like a 2-hour class where we bring in citizens from the community, and we do different. We may come in and say, okay, today we're going to show you how to run radar, or we're going to show you how to use a laser on speed enforcement. We may bring in a canine officer and say, okay, this is what we do for our job. We bring in investigators. We just bring in we also bring outside agencies in that may not have that specialized unit. So like a bomb squad, we don't have that. We may bring in Cincinnati's bomb squad and say, here's their equipment. So, but the Citizens Police Academy has worked very wonderful in other agencies. So
what's the point of that? So you just share with the community what you're doing? Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah. And it's like I said, they become engaged with what we're doing, and they also help with for our planning for the future. And what's good about getting that community engagement, is there anything else that we can do as a law enforcement, anything that we need that you guys see a function for us to better the community for. So citizen feedback is wonderful for us.
So when someone goes through that program, they don't get to like put lights on their car and like ride around them, patrol.
They won't do that.
Darn it.
But they can volunteer. They will be able to volunteer for certain community events that we have. I know we always have one in August called National Night Out. We I can't say currently, last year we had it at the parking lot of Walmart, and it brought out hundreds of people, and it was great. We had booths set up out there. Walmart was wonderful. They fed everybody, provided beverages. We brought our SWAT team out. We set up our equipment, and we're out there just to answer questions and just just kind of talk with the community.
Yeah.
So it's great to be able to get out there and we can be officers, but they have to understand we're people too. So ask us questions. We're not gonna turn anybody away.
Yeah.
I think it's great that you phrase it that way, because it's like you were saying earlier, there's a lot of disconnect, it seems, with like police officers in the community because of these people who are doing bad things as police officers. And one bad apple does not spoil the barrel. But putting yourself in the community and saying, we are people, this is our community, we want it to be safe, not only for you, but for us, for our families. I think that's cool.
Yes.
What is so last question, because our battery is going to die.
Okay.
And probably time too. What is your favorite part of your job?
My favorite part of the job is interacting with my officers. Because when I get into work every day, just seeing how hard these guys go out and work, they want to be there. The greatest thing is we just promoted one of our new officers to sergeant. Mm-hmm. He came in my office the other day, and he's like, "Hey, Chief, you got a minute?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." He says, "Do you have any advice for me as a new sergeant?" I was like, "I've been in your shoes." I said, "Don't forget where you came from." What I mean by that is, don't forget what you did as a patrol officer, how you interacted with your officers on that department. Because once you forget where you came from, those guys are going to not look at you the same anymore. Mm. So I just give him advice, just stay hardworking, be faithful to you, be faithful to your community. You wear that badge for a reason, and that badge is not for power. It's to be out there and to engage the community to help people. So, and that's one of my leadership traits is if you're wearing that badge for power, get out.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your
Anytime.
time. Yeah. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening to today's episode with Chief Ron Fithen. I hope that you learned a lot and answered some questions for you. If there's some more questions that you wanted to ask that we did not cover, I just will remind you that we are a small community and you have the power to reach out to the police department yourself and ask any questions that you would like. Like I said in the intro, Emily just called the police chief and asked to be in the podcast.
The non-emergency number.
Yeah, good clarification there. So we are a small community and you do have the power to get answers to the questions that you have, even if we didn't discuss them today. So one thing that we forgot to ask on the podcast because our battery was dying was the question on everyone's mind. What is Chief Ron Fithen's favorite donut? And he so lovingly said that his favorite meal is actually a Twinkie and a Coke.
A ho-ho.
Oh, a ho-ho and Coke. A ho-ho is
It's like a Swiss cake roll.
with a little swirl on top.
No, that's a ding-dong.
You're a ding-dong. What's a ho-ho?
It's the chocolate cake with the white frosting in the middle. It's like coated in chocolate.
Those are good.
I Google it.
Yeah, those are good. Those are probably like not really food, but
Air with calories. I don't know if you should Google ho-ho. God only knows what's going to come up.
oh, look, it's you right there. JK.
That's the hot goss. That's a ho-ho.
I know what a ho-ho is now. I just forgot. I try to eat healthy stuff now, so.
Not mentioning that you just told them you ate 5 cookies in 5 minutes.
Oh, wow. Put me on blast. Jeez. Anyways, Emily, how do people get in contact with us if they want to follow us online, see some more content, or give us feedback on the podcast or anything?
So you're always more than welcome. If you have feedback or have a request for guests, you can email us at info@Real Change Wilmington or message us on our social media. You can find us on Facebook at Real Change Wilmington and on Instagram at Real Change Wilmington as well. And then we have a YouTube channel, which is just the podcast.
Yep. And like I preluded to in the previous episode, we do have some new print stuff coming out soon. So stay tuned for that, Wilmington. With that, I'm Dustin Pierce.
And I'm Emily Spencer.
Keep it real, Wilmington.